Okay, so the event recap for Hungary, we are just going to start from the beginning where I brought my son, my brother, and then we had the Latvia boys, Maurice and Yanis, and Jamon came as well from Germany. So Joel and my son and I were traveling, and our first flight, I'm going to not bore you with the details, it was supposed to leave at 7:50, 4.5 to 5 hours of delays. The plane ended up being canceled at around 1:30 in the morning. So we actually arrived in Hungary Thursday. We didn't get to the track until 3 p.m. We had zero sleep, and the entire competition was on the Friday. So with all of that taken into consideration, we were at the track really late because the driver's meeting is super late. I remember my eyes feeling like I could barely keep them open. So going into Friday, got the best sleep that we could. Moving on into practice, we basically did our first run, and immediately we had decided that we were not going to use the handbrake at all. And this was going to prove to be an advantage if we made it to battles. But in order to use something like this in battles, you need to practice doing it. So the first run, we threw it in, a little too much angle, didn't quite make it to zone 2, but it was just a feeler lap. The second run, we pretty much nailed the entire course by the second lap. So the entire practice session, we were just refining the initiation from basically outer zone 3 and on. I had the ability to run a like 90-95 point run every time. And then from the first section, I was filling outer zone 1 100% every time. That was no problem. But getting to zone 2, there was actually 2 painted boxes, and the issue with what a lot of drivers were complaining was that there's a grass hill, and the zone was really difficult to visibly see, especially when the paint was run off by the cars. So then they put 2 cones on the hill that were, I believe they were yellow, which really blended in with the grass, like half the grass was yellow anyways. Then they put flags on top of the cones for more visibility, and then those were difficult to find amongst the grass because you're just coming in. We had the fastest entry tied with, I believe, Jack Shanahan and James Dean at 122 kilometers an hour. And the reason I know that is because of the pod system that they're putting on the cars, the basically electronic measuring devices that scans everything while you're driving. So I'm actually going to show you a screen recording of that and how that works, because it is insane what you're able to view from your run virtually, and you're able to see absolutely everything, entries, and you can see everything from the other drivers too. It gives you like a full list. So I don't even think Jack knows that, but I'm going to show him. Really exciting to show that and showcase that with what Drift Masters is trying to do, which is elevate the sport to the point that it is at a high level, competitive with the best racing series in the world. You need stuff like this to foolproof the judging system and criteria, and to help the driver become better. So this is a really cool thing. From that, you saw the entry was the fastest, and it visibly looked the fastest. And the sustained speed, the average speed of my runs were 5 to 6 kilometers an hour faster than like the average of everybody else. So we were able to do that without gripping up the tires or doing anything crazy. We were simply just driving with more momentum and not using the handbrake. The handbrake, no matter what, will always slow the car. Basically, you're stopping the tires, which are driving the car. So yes, I know some people are like, oh, it didn't change the momentum, it didn't do this, or it didn't do that. It's impossible. If you pull the handbrake, it's going to change the momentum. There's no way around that. There's no arguments to be had. It will. So the issues that we were running into, really, which was a discussion that we had with the judges, was that during practice, we have some of the best drivers in the world here competing at Drift Masters. And the judges in the drivers meeting said that they would award the highest points to no use of the handbrake. They said the best initiation is clutch kick, no handbrake. So immediately I'm going for clutch kick, no handbrake. What I don't like is that in Drift Masters, because these are the best drivers in the world, why would they not use the training session to perfect the judging criteria and improve their driving and make for a better show? Because in my opinion, and I'm not saying that I got a bad score or anything, I think my score was justified because I missed zone 2, I couldn't visibly see it. The reason I'm saying this is that if you're a novice driver or even an intermediate driver, you can basically nail any line if you pull the handbrake in every zone. The handbrake is an insurance stick. If you pull the handbrake, you can extend the corner, you can increase angle, you can decrease angle, you can manipulate the lines so much with the handbrake that you can do basically anything with the handbrake. The problem is it always will slow or affect the car, and some people are really, really good at it, but I've seen in-car video of guys getting 90+ point runs where they are pulling the handbrake in zone 1 on the initiation, which is just a small deduction. Only a few were pulling it in zone 2, which is like a huge no-no. Like, you should never pull it there. That is a full throttle zone. Some people were pulling it in zone 3. They posted live video of this on their social media as well, like it wasn't a big deal. Pulling the handbrake in zone 4, and then I think after that, I don't know that many people were pulling handbrake after that point, but basically there were guys pulling the handbrake up to 4 times in the first section of the course, where more often than not I wasn't pulling it at all, especially on initiation. Definitely not at 2, definitely not at 3, and in 4 I would do it. I did do a couple runs without doing it, but honestly, for safety reasons, going into the wall at 4, we saw some really big crashes there, so that zone was really important. Plus there was a decel zone there, so that was considered fine. You could decel with angle, foot brake, or handbrake, so no issues for me in that section, but the first 3, kind of big issues for me. I would think that if you're on the right line, but you see a handbrake pull, it's like an immediate -5. If the zone is 10, you got to the zone, -5 for pulling the handbrake to get in the zone. So that's kind of where I'm at, because a novice driver that accidentally puts a handbrake in their car too early, they begin relying on it for everything, because it is just that type of tool. It gives you the ability to do anything at the sacrifice for style, at the sacrifice of commitment. So in my opinion, the driver level is so good that why are we using a training session to just continue to use the handbrake? The training session should be to perfect what the judge's criteria was. So for example, Piotr got like a basic perfect run, an insane run. It was 97 points. I'm assuming the deduction of 3 points was just for the handbrake, because there really wasn't anything to take away from his run at all, other than maybe a small bobble. So I guess it would be -3 for the handbrake, -2 for the handbrake, -1 for the bobble. I don't know, but he was basically exactly where he needed to be. Very fast, high angle, great style. So really, the deductions are minimal, although he only pulled it on initiation. So needless to say, what I have to work on is not taking that too seriously and not spending so much time on basically something that no one else is doing just for an advantage, a slight advantage in battles, because at this point, we just need to get into qualifying. So, but other than that, essentially, practice went perfect. Having my son there was amazing. He was the rubber guy, so he would get rid of all the rubber on the car in the back. Some guys catch that on fire, like Adam. So it's good to have a guy that just pulls the rubber off. Maybe I should have sent Eli over there to get the rubber off of his car as well. Yeah, we were tired. Yeah, we were exhausted. We weren't quite on the time yet. So those things have to play, but I would have to say that running the 81 point run and missing zone 2, but still getting an 81, I know that if I just extended into zone 2, it would have been a 90 point run. And that aspect was difficult to handle when we didn't qualify. So going into the second run, I knew the only thing I needed to do was extend into zone 2. The rest could be the same, but this is where it kind of turns into the driving ability is put over to the side and your mental game becomes the only thing that actually matters, because I could drive this track really, really easily during practice. But now the mental game is starting to set in. You know you have an 81, you're in 25th or 26th place going into the second round of qualifying. So basically 6 people can bump you out of the top 32 and then you're done. So I needed to get a mid to high 80s minimum, and then we were going for the 90s. So I threw a little bit of extra sauce onto it, and that was enough to over angle the car. And then yeah, we almost completely over rotated, and that was it for that run. That was basically the 0. So then sitting the most stressful hour of time waiting for watching who can bump you out. At a certain point we were sitting in 30th and there were like 5 guys that could bump us out, and they all got above my score, all of them. So that put us, I think, in 35th overall with an 81. And then 32nd was 82.5. So that shows you how important those 0.5s and 1s are worth. All in all, the event was cut short, but the team was fantastic. The car was fantastic. We had no problems with the car. The driving during all day was perfect. We were just making small adjustments, and I was able to make the one adjustment and then maintain the rest of the run. Whenever you make a small adjustment, usually it may affect the rest of the run, so that you have to then address something else after you fix one problem. But that wasn't an issue. We were able to perfect everything. We have a very dedicated fan base in Europe, and a lot of people find that the car and the driving style is their favorite. They will tell me that, so I'm not just saying that I think I'm the best. It's because they say that the car, the driving style, the noises, the sounds, everything is great. So congratulations to Lori and Tor. They put on a hell of a show with S13s. Let that sink in for a second. An S chassis, S13, comparatively is the worst S chassis because the 14 and 15 have better wheelbase, better suspension geometry, better material, better metal, and it's a stronger chassis. So the S13 never does well in America because of the tires, because of the regulations and everything. So to put this into perspective, in America, you cannot brace the rear subframe, you cannot brace the strut towers, you cannot do these improvements to the chassis. So the S chassis is too weak, basically, to run like a pro level in FD. I don't think there is any S13s in pro. Could be wrong, but I don't think there are. But over in Europe, you can brace the strut towers, you can brace the subframe pickup points, studs, everything. You can reinforce the chassis. You can even brace the traction arms with tubes to the center of the subframe so that those will never bend, which happens all the time on an S chassis, especially with grippy tires. You can do all of these things, and the tire accounts for everything. So an S13 has one major advantage. It's very light and it's very small. So if you can brace everything, plus put a 285 RS Velino on it, plus give it 1,000 horsepower, now you actually have one of the best chassis. Because the other point is, the suspension is not very good in an S chassis. The multi-link is kind of trash. Yes, the grip kits out there can improve the geometry, but it's still nothing compared to the mechanical grip of Corvettes or BMWs, E36, E46 specifically, so that doesn't matter. You put the Velino on it, and the suspension doesn't matter. So learning this throughout the year, we have actually reduced the amount that the Corvette suspension even does. We've increased the spring rate twice now since the beginning, both front and rear. Only really messed with reducing toe, bringing it closer to zero, not running any sort of aggressive dampening or setup changes or anti-squat or anything like that. We're just playing with tire pressure, and we're not even close to maxing out these tires, not even close. And we had the fastest average speed, fastest entry, and we're running these tires at like 24 PSI. The lowest we've gone is 18 PSI. So coming from US competition, Canada competition, I am used to running single digits on a lot of these tires, and never have I been as fast or gripped up as we are over here, and we still have a ton of room in the tire. They ran out of 285s. This is on a 265 RS, so let all of that sink in, and then what the biggest difference is between Drift Masters and North American drifting, and it is really the regulations, the cars and the tires are the big ones. Reinforcing the chassis, the compounds of the tires, and then the weight. The weight there is no limit. So we weigh around 1270 kg with me in the car, which is too light for anything that we would do in FD with the same size tire. And then I'm kind of heavy. There are other cars weighing in 1150, 1100, running the same tire or bigger, running more power or similar. All of these things are being learned as we go. And going into Poland, really the only thing that I need to do is get my mentality clear, get some seat time, and basically that's it. We're going there in 2 weeks. We've committed to the full season, and after this season is over, it is going to be a full reset, reevaluation, look at everything and take everything that we've learned and apply it. So that's kind of just open thought process. Not even about the Hungary recap so much. I just went on a bit of a tangent, but I know you guys will appreciate everything said. So anyways, the event overall was actually the smoothest, the best, the most fun, the most relaxed, other than the flights and the no sleeping. Everything was super smooth. And the guys from Latvia, amazing guys from Drift Darvnita, they brought us the tent, they brought a van, they brought tools, extra tools, jacks, stands, leaf blowers, impacts, everything that you could think of that we would need, they brought, even a welder, even a generator. And it was super comfortable. And Yanis is like a master mechanic next to my brother, who's also like a master mechanic. So we were just like fully set. Joel's doing some stuff on the computer, dialing in some PDM settings with the cooling system and cleaning up the CAN bus network where there was some network interferences and disruptions, and we think we completely resolved the issue, which may have been some feedback from the EGT module that went bad, feeding back into the ECU and giving a bad signal, and this might have been disrupting the misfire that we kept having. So really the car ran perfect. And going into Poland, the win that we're taking away from this is that the car is better set up. The car is fully intact. We didn't wreck any body panels. The only thing that we need to do is like an alignment, an oil change, and that's basically it. Going into Poland, I'm pretty happy with that. I would have really liked to make it into top 32, obviously also get a couple extra points to keep within the top 32 drivers, but what a year of learning. That's enough rambling for me. That's the end of this video. We'll see you guys on the next one. Later.